Yeah, I want to start this off with the Darius Garland talk because I think we brought it up maybe sometime last week on one of the shows, but I feel like Darius Garland should get out Hooper spotlight over his last 5 games, which is a little more recent. He's averaging 24.8 points, 12.2 assists, and 4.2 rebounds, and as we've been saying all along, like the Cleveland Cavaliers have a good cast of good young players, but Darius Garland at the point guard position is kind of spearheading that, and a lot of what they do is because of how good he's been on the ball this year and just playing point guard.
Right, this is the first year that he's really been healthy too, so that's been, a good change of pace for him. He wasn't rehabbing in the off season and stuff like that, so. And he's shown his impact on the team overall as they put it together. A lot of people didn't have the Cavs in the position that they're in right now. I definitely didn't think they would be looking at home court advantage in the East. You got to give Darius Garland all the credit for that.
No, for sure.
Well, not all the credit, but a good amount of it.
No, surely. You think he got right now? Maybe he's the front runner for most improved player. Maybe with how he's just been playing overall this year.
Yeah, I think it's between the two I like the most are between him and DeJounte Murray. But since Cleveland is kind of so much better, not kind of, but they're so much better than the Spurs, that's going to give him a better chance of being an all-star and of winning that award.
Right. And with that being said, I'm John W.
Fresh X.
And this is the Hoopers Hour on Nothing But Net Radio, presented to you by Dash Radio. And Cleveland is one of those teams who, of course, after they lost LeBron, after the 2018 season, people thought it was going to be a long rebuild process, and they didn't know how long. Of course, you lose a player like LeBron James, you don't know how long it would take, even if it, get back to that position. So just to see Cleveland fighting for home court advantage, not only 4 years later, really shows that the front office have scouted and drafted and treated free agency with a lot of care this time around, just trying to be a respectable franchise and not go through those years where it's like they're a bottom feeder, or whatever.
Yeah, Kobe Altman, he had a good off season, drafting Evan Mobley. The trade he pulled off last year of getting Jared Allen kind of started some things for them. They brought in Rubio, kind of, changing Kevin Love's role with the team. And, Kobe Altman was rewarded for that. He's no longer just a GM. He's president of basketball operations. Got a good extension a few weeks ago. But, he's seeing a lot of, because honestly, some of these players have already been there for a few years. You look at Cedi Osman. Of course, you got Okoro, who's a young player, but he's been there for the last couple of years or whatever. Like I said before, Kevin Love. But they just kind of sprinkled some of the other players around. Kind of sucks that they don't have Colin Sexton right now, but I think the biggest changes is that Jared Allen deal, and then just picking right in the draft, because Mobley has been, you can say he's been everything they expected him to be plus more.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that. He's been, and I know for most people, he's probably still that Rookie of the Year candidate, especially with how good the team is and how well he's been playing offensively and defensively. I know it's a lot of people who, even though it's not going to happen, like to see a young player, him be one of those young players with how good he is rewarded with an all-star spot, but I don't think the NBA and the NBA politics is ready for a rookie to be in the All-Star game again, especially one that's got to earn it from the coach's pick and not just fan voting.
Your numbers gonna have to kind of blow everyone away, and 15-8 are good numbers, and I think he's in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation, but it's not gonna blow people away enough for him to make the All-Star team. He's shooting 51% from the field. I think he's gonna be. It's going to be a question, is he going to be first team or second team all defense this year, though?
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that. All right, since January, Joel Embiid is averaging 33 points on 31 minutes, 10 rebounds, 4.8 assists a game. He had a 50-point game in 27 minutes against Orlando the other night, where he was just kind of showing off all his skill and the offensive package that he normally shows. I seen Jalen Rose say something about that, just how he's been so consistently great this year, putting that on, he's healthier this year. He's more in shape because of that. Do you kind of agree with that first? Like, this is the best Joel Embiid done look to you since he's been Like just health wise in a way.
I think it started last year. I mean, he finished second in MVP voting. He did miss some time, which he's missed a little time this year. He's always gonna miss a little time for something. But the time he missed last year is probably what stopped him from really winning it over the Joker, who had a great season.
Right.
But the last 2 years have been, because it's not those. He's gonna miss some time. That's just natural with the NBA nowadays. Period. Anyway, but he's shown that he's gonna be out there. He's gonna be available. He's not getting these major injuries where he's missing months at a time. Like the time he missed this year was just because of COVID or whatever. So you could tell he's getting back healthy because he started the year so strong, and then he did miss the time with COVID, and he talked. He was real open about how it really kicked his butt. He got it real bad or whatever. So now we're kind of 2 months away from that. It makes sense that he's playing some of the best basketball. I mean, he's player of the month for December, so he's been picking it up. But he's definitely hitting his stride though, because now we're not really, like I said, he's gonna miss some time, but we're not expecting him to be so injury prone where he's missing months.
No, for sure. And just with how he's playing, he's definitely for the most part, carrying Philadelphia to trying to get back into the elite ranks of the East. I think he has been, 5th place right now, 5th, 6th place.
Yeah, sixth.
Definitely still fighting for home court advantage. And I know a lot of people come to the season, of course you think they're going to be without Ben, so there's going to be a little slide. And you can see that they were in first place last year. They're in 6th place this year. But overall, do you think Doc has done a good job just having this team out there? And I know, to your credit, you've always said just with Joel Embiid, they are a good team. They're a playoff team with just one of them, whether that is Joel or Ben. But do you think Doc has done a good job keeping everybody at a high level to get them, keep them in the playoff chase?
Yeah, he's done a good job, playing with the players that's out there. Despite what Daryl Morey is doing to handicap this franchise this year with the back and forth with Ben. I mean, it's Daryl Morey and Ben Simmons, but Daryl is playing his part too, being so stubborn as to not even that first it seemed like it was about Daryl wanting to get what he wanted, but now it just seems like it's about him just trying to make Ben play for this team, and it's going to hurt the 76ers in the end. So with that, Doc has done a good job of being creative with the lineup. He's getting solid productions out of. I mean, we've seen Tyrese Maxey kind of grow up a little bit this year. Seth Curry's having a big year, being able to use Andre Drummond off the bench. I'm pretty sure he leads bench players in rebounding, or whatever. So Doc is doing what he can with this roster, while still missing a big piece of it, because until Ben gets moved, you're always gonna be a what if with your lineup, because right.
you're always gonna be missing something. Right. And of course, there's been the reported trades out there for Ben. Of course, there was the Sacramento one. That was I think it was Ben and Tobias Harris for Tyrese Halliburton, Harrison Barnes, a couple picks and a couple other young players. And I think the consensus is everybody wanted them to take the pick just because it gets Ben Simmons out of there. But I still think the consensus is that's not necessarily not enough, but it's still kind of not good enough, and they could give a little more maybe. You kind of get that feeling out of that trade, like it's okay, but it could be better.
Yeah, basically they could give a little more, like especially with that, I would probably take Marvin Bagley or something also. I don't know how the money works or how that goes, but definitely you want a little bit more, but they're still kind of getting what they want, because you either want an all-star or a young player. You would be getting that in Halliburton, who was in the Rookie of the Year conversation last year, which obviously that was dominated by LaMelo and Anthony Edwards, but he was in the conversation. He is a good young player. You get a guard out of it. You get a veteran champion in Harrison Barnes, plus some picks. So at this point, it's just a matter of what deal is he really trying to get, because I don't think he's aggressively seeking a deal, so nobody even really knows what kind of to offer him, because
right.
Is he even really looking for something? He really just kind of wants Ben to play.
No, yeah, that's also a good point. Like, what is he looking for us to know if the offer is good or not? But just going off the list, just the players, of course, people are going to say, it's good, but it's not enough. But like you say, until Daryl Morey actually, comes out and say what he wants to do with Ben, other than He's gonna play here, like whether he wants to or not. We'll never know what Philly's gonna do with Ben. And like I know, like you were saying earlier when we were watching, Jalen Jacoby, and they were asking, is this wasting, Ben, Joel Embiid, Joel playing this good, is that kind of wasting his career or wasting this year? What could be getting them back into the championship competition? And of course, depending on how you look at it now, Joel Embiid is having a great year. But it's just you got to do something with the franchise at some point.
You finished first in the East last year. Now you're in sixth, and it's literally because one position is being held up on your team. Your team gonna continuously be incomplete, and that's what make it a wasted year. Because he is being healthy right now, after going through those years of having up and down health, and you want to continue to see that going, but. You in win now mode, not negotiate with Ben mode. So. It's time to find a deal that works for the franchise and just move on from them.
Nah, for sure, Liv. Speaking of trades, of course, the Lakers are still struggling this year, and there's been some interesting trade rumors out there for them. Of course, there was the new one, the John Wall for Westbrook Part 2 trade, which I don't think that makes sense to anybody. And then the other one, of course, for THT Kendrick Nunn and their 2027 first round pick for Jeremy Grant. And while to some people that they like that might like that a little more, you get younger with Jeremy Grant on the wing and in the front court. He can obviously help with scoring and defense. But do either one of those moves really move the needle for the Lakers, or is it just all right? We just trying something because we just want to get some new energy in here at this point.
Right. The Houston one, I don't believe that at all because I don't get why Houston would do it. And the deal, nobody's just going to make a deal. Everyone makes these deals just based off of what works for the Lakers. But, why would Houston trade for Westbrook again? He made it real clear that he kind of didn't want to play for that owner. So I would imagine he says no to that anyway.
Right.
And then Jeremy Grant, it sounds good, but, he doesn't help them with shooting. He helps them defensively a little bit more, I guess. But if AD isn't going to play the center, Jeremy Grant, I guess he could play the 3, but he's really more of a 4. So I don't really see how Jeremy Grant helps this team. They really kind of need AD to get healthy. They need some more shooters on the team. And then, I would start there, really. But if you can get, I would say if you could get Jeremy Grant and it was just for THT and a pick, I would do it. I don't know why Detroit would go for that either, but if Detroit is going to give me Jeremy Grant just for that, then yeah, go ahead and do it.
No, I definitely get what you're saying. And Jeremy Grant, of course, it's been reported as saying that, if he gets traded, he wants to be somewhere where he still gets to be the first scoring option, which he gets to be in Detroit for the most part as Cam comes along in his rookie season. But
Jeremy Grant don't get to make that call.
But, that's his purpose. That's what he's asking. But when players say something like that, and of course, however a player wants to live out his career, play out his career is up to him. Maybe that's, he wants to go up, he's going to be able to make some all-star appearances if he can average a decent amount of points on, and the team is pretty good. But when the player says that out loud, does that kind of just already put you in the mindset of where they're at? Like, not even just in their career, but kind of what they want for their career at this point?
You started thinking that he's just more so worried about his numbers, which he probably is. I don't think he's had a major payday yet, so he could be looking for that major payday or whatever. Yeah, when he signed with Detroit, it was a 3-year, like $60 million deal. So I'm sure he's looking for, he's looking for $100 million deal or whatever, right. Possibly all-star appearance. But as nice as Jeremy Grant has played, as well as he's looked, he's not in a position to say, I got to go here to do this and that. He ain't got no trade clause, and the team that he's averaging 20 on, they have one of the worst records in the NBA back-to-back years.
All right. And just speaking of Detroit, because of course if they're thinking of trading Jeremy Grant to whoever it is, you got to be thinking now at this point, all right, we're going full rebuild. And I did kind of ask that a couple months ago. But do you think Detroit is ready to go full rebuild? Of course, Dwayne Casey is still their head coach. You have young trade pieces on your team like Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart and Jeremy Grant for that matter. But do you think Detroit is thinking, all right, now let's go for this rebuild? Because you can only go so long when you kind of in the middle weight in water. Like, we either gonna be bad or we gonna be good. And right now they're just bad.
I mean, they might as well go full rebuild anyway because they just don't have the pieces anyway. Like the team, it's a couple. Like Cade is a nice young player. Sadiq Bey is a solid young player or whatever, but they don't have no mood or need of talent or whatever. This team couldn't compete for the playoffs. They don't compete for the playoffs, so it's kind of might as well be time to fully be investing in. All right, we just building around Cade, and I mean anybody else, I would be open to move or whatever. But outside of that. Yeah, they don't. I mean, I'm just looking at their roster right now. I'm just, they got Hammy on the team. He's okay. He doesn't necessarily move the needle either. The question comes to, is Killian Hayes and Sadiq Bey a part of this rebuild? I mean, I don't think Killian Hayes is at all, even though they like him and Cade defensively. But he just doesn't play with enough confidence. I don't think he's going to be a part of the winning time in Detroit. I do think I would keep Cade, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey. Everybody else can go.
And that's a good starting place. Your wing player, your big man, and your point guard who you drafted number one, who you expect to be your franchise player and your franchise face for at least the next 10 years. So that's a good starting place. And I guess the thing is, are they gonna get rid of Dwayne Casey this year? And I think that's gonna determine if they're gonna start their rebuild sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think they're moving on from Casey. He's been there for 4 years now, going on 5 years. He kind of got to play out his whole contract. I think they'll be more comfortable letting him go, where he did get a couple years there, and then you're not paying him multiple years. Paying him for 1 year is cool, but you never want to be paying a coach multiple years. So I don't know his contract situation, but I just feel like he's going on like 4 years there at least.
Right.
So I think they'd be ready to let him go.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, he's been in Detroit. This is his 4th season.
No, yeah, so maybe it's just that time anyway. Like, we've been here. You can't hear we had Blake. No, we don't have Blake or Andre Drummond. So
exactly. He came there to win. He stayed along through the losing. Appreciate you. That's why we let you go ahead and get your deals and things like that.
Right.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure he didn't. Your coaches aren't signing more than 5-year deals, so I'm pretty sure he signed a 5-year deal. So his deal should be about up.
No, yeah. Chicago Bulls and the Milwaukee Bucks got in a very intense game the other day where Milwaukee pulled away with a close victory. And I guess a lot, at this point, that's what we're going to start getting from, especially the top teams in the league, playoff-type atmospheres, as most people call it, or playoff-like competition. Did you catch any of the game first?
Yeah, I watched most of that game. I watched all of the game, actually.
And, of course, as we know, the Bulls are already down a couple players, especially with Zach LaVine finna miss some time out. Did you learn anything from either one of those teams, or was it just a good game to watch?
It was a good game to watch overall, but what I learned from the Bulls teams, what I kind of already was saying, and I tweeted it, I was like, the Bulls need more shooting, and everybody just said, yeah, they look like this without Zach and Lonzo, but they always have needed some more shooting. They clearly missed Zach. That's 27 points per game. Right. 26 points per game out your lineup, and then you are gonna miss Lonzo. He's shooting a career high in 3-point percentage, but they really, I saw a lot of possessions, and this was a problem even before they was out, where they go with I can't think of his name, number 12. He's out of Illinois. He's a guard. Yeah, him and they had him and Kobe White on the floor a lot. Especially because, like I said, you are missing Zach and Lonzo, so they got to play some extended minutes together, which they probably wouldn't have played if they were there. That could be a kind of argument to that, just being open. But it was a lot of times they got hit, and and Kobe White was having a tough game. I will say that he was having a tough shooting game, but they were turning down so many shots. And when you have a real shooter, especially like Kobe White in particular, he's a scorer overall. I know he shoots a solid percentage from 3, but he's a scorer.
Right.
He's more of a point guard in college at North Carolina, but he's become a scorer in the NBA. So he's not really shoot. So when his shot isn't falling, now he's turning down those shots to kind of drive out the dribble, but he's not really creating anything at the rim. So you really just turning down shots. If it's an actual shooter, Duncan Robinson, Joe Harris, in that mode of a player, you're not gonna be turning down those threes to try to get some layups because your three isn't falling. You're just gonna keep taking those threes. And the Bulls, I can't think of his name right now, but they brought in number 21 for the Bulls. Can't think of his name at all, but he was exactly what they needed because he was just literally just shooting the ball, not turning down the wide open threes. Just because, man, this is NBA, somebody closing out on you, it's still an open shot.
Yeah, right.
And those are the shots that they're literally turning down. So I looked at the Bulls and realized that they needed shooting. I always thought that they could use more size. When DeMarcus Cousins didn't go back to the Bucks, I said that they should look at him.
Yeah.
But they could use a back up big. But the shooting was more of something that I noticed with them.
No, yeah, I definitely can see shooting and definitely a big, especially like say Patrick Williams gone for the year. And I just wanted to, talk about Lonzo for a minute, who has been having a really good year. I think, so far in his career, I think this has been the best he's played. And I think it's because he's not just a pass the ball forward point guard anymore. Like, he comes down and run the sets in Chicago. Like, he sets people up. Of course, you have two dynamic scorers and Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, but he's making sure they get the ball in the spots where they need it. You're making sure Vucevic is involved in all the offense. Then you have players like Derek White Jr., who comes off the bench, who isn't necessarily putting the ball on the ground. He's, cutting, shooting open threes, going and doing some pick and roll stuff. So I want to say shout out to Lonzo, who's really transformed into, I guess, the best version of a point guard that you can have for this team, for the Chicago Bulls this year.
Right.
But something else happened in the game last night, and it's involving a player who, after having a lot, people weren't surprised it happened. Grayson Allen, I guess you could say he was going for the ball at first on Alex Caruso, if you look at it, from one angle. But it was a hard foul. Caruso hit the ground. He's going to be out for a couple weeks with a fractured wrist. And like I said, Grayson Allen is going back to his Duke days, have had these questionable plays where he tripped players up. And when you first saw it happen, did you think it was going to be bad?
When I first saw it, because I was watching the game live, I did initially think he was trying to go for the block, how he was coming in. So the first thing I noticed was just, you instantly see how hard Caruso fell. And I'm looking like, dang, he hit his head on the floor. But I didn't really think it was a flagrant foul initially until you go back and watch it and see how he snatches the ball and then like he's trying to pull him out the air with his other arm. So it was just like weird, and I even tried to just look at it, and Grayson definitely has a history of being a dirty player, and not even just that he's been a dirty player, it's just like that he don't care. I mean, even after this, when they was reviewing it, and people said it was because some fans were yelling stuff at him or something like that, but he was just like laughing on the sideline, giggling or whatever on the sideline. And it's like, this ain't really the time for you to be giggling at it, no matter how ridiculous you may think this is. But when I first saw it, even knowing that it was him, I really kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt. I was like, nah, he was kind of going for the ball, because
that's fair.
You did see him snatch at the ball. But then when you watch it again and see the second motion of what he do with his other arm, initially I'm like, he couldn't make himself do that. It was just natural. And then you look at it, it's like, nah, I don't know. It looked like he kind of tried to pull him out of the air.
Right.
And then once you just watch it even more, it's like that's an ugly play. And it ended up hurting Caruso's wrist. He's out the next 6 to 8 weeks, right, or whatever. And that's what kind of had Billy Donovan upset after the game, because he was like, he could have hurt him and put him out of the game. They didn't even know at the time he was about to be out for that long or whatever. So it was just a weird play, and just watching it again and again, and I watched it some more the next day, I was just like, what was he trying to accomplish? What are you really trying to do? But when you got a history of being a dirty player like that, hey, he a dirty player. It just is what it is. Grayson Allen is a dirty player. He's always been a dirty player. I don't think he really cares. I think it's kind of funny to him. The NBA suspended him for one game. So
I see somebody say he should be suspended for as long as Caruso is out injured.
Yeah, that's what people always say when situations like this happen, and I don't know how that really works.
Because because he's getting suspended because of because of the foul.
Yeah,
he's not getting suspended because he hurt Alex Caruso.
Yeah,
which is like the only way they would be able to do that. Not to get too deep into this, but the only way they would be able to do that is they could prove that he hurt Caruso on purpose. Like,
yeah, that's just kind of and that's the thing with him. I don't think he intentionally was like, it's Caruso, I'm gonna hurt him. I just think he a dirty. This wasn't even a dirty play for him. It was just an excessive play. Like he was tripping people. He was doing that on purpose. But this is just one of them plays that a dirty player makes when they're not afraid to go toe the line and they're gonna do something anyway. So even when they're not intending to be dirty, it just comes out that way because they'll do it or whatever. But honestly, in my opinion, and these may not be the same at all. This should be way on the end, but this just to me just goes to like just the extraness that players do after the whistle period overall.
I was gonna bring that up.
You can't compare it to him because he has a history of being a dirty player. He's a history of a dirty player. I say it over and over because it needs to be acknowledged because it's players that haven't done dirty things that kind of get that reputation just because they might have got an attitude. That was the thing with DeMarcus Cousins for a while. He got treated like he was a dirty player just because he got upset at times, but he never did anything dirty, never fouled nobody dirty. He just got into it with the refs. And you can carry that reputation. We all know Draymond carries a reputation. LeBron, it was a thing for him or whatever. But I just think this all comes to the assessing of after the play because where I thought he was trying to play for the ball was he did try to snatch at the ball and Caruso still trying to make it. So the excessiveness that people have of I'm not gonna let you get the ball up after a play, or how players poke at the ball or knock the ball out somebody's hands, that was like his thing was I'm gonna do whatever it takes to not let you get the ball up. And that's what make it excessive and out of control, and now you end up getting hurt. Right. But there's always little things that happen like that throughout the game that players do for no reason, just because it's the whistle. I mean, even as simple as how people just like block the shot or whatever. It all starts with like stuff like that, of just stuff that don't really matter that players do for some reason.
And just like you say,
you got the dirty players like Grayson that's gonna just take it to another level.
But speaking of that excessiveness, of course it happens in every game 2-3 times, especially when a player doesn't agree with a call. You can see get to a timeout. To your point about the shot blocking, I've seen Westbrook fall trying to block one of those shots. Like, it's a free shot, Westbrook. Like, everybody does, but it's like if you fall when you're doing it, you're trying to look too hard to do it. But to your point of the excessiveness, of course, like say players not getting don't want to give the ball to the ref, or even where you have a team who's trying to get the ball, they go and try to snatch the ball out the player hand, even though that player should get a ball up. At any point, of course, you can't just tee that stuff up. That's the delayed game warning. Would you like to see that get thrown out there more when that stuff happens? Because sometimes a player will not let go of the ball, honestly, and it's like, just give us the ball so we can inbound it. Like, do you think stuff like that should get more delayed game calls? Yeah,
it should, because it's just all becoming extra for no reason, and I really don't even get why players do it. It usually don't make no sense to me. So yeah, for sure.
No, definitely. You got a big matchup coming up during the week. You got the Memphis Grizzlies versus Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks, who Luka just helped end their Memphis win streak last week. And of course, these are the two players, with Luka's getting healthy, are probably going to be in a lot of talks now for who's the best young player, throwing in there, and you throw Trae Young in there as well. But what do you expect out of this matchup this time around from both teams?
Two teams trying to establish that they are the elite. They're going to be the next elite contender, pretty much. Dallas has been on a roll since Luka's came back. Memphis kind of been on a roll all year. They're right now, it's a good chance that they could play in the playoffs. Honestly, whether it's at the 3-6 or the 4-5, Memphis is in third, Dallas is in 5 or whatever, but that could go, either way with that. So, potential playoff matchup. I think Memphis, they want to get a little get back because they lost. Dallas ended their streak, so it's, kind of make that statement of going back and beating them and winning that game. But I think it could be a good game overall from two of the best young players in the NBA.
No, for sure. Would this be a playoff matchup? Not necessarily that you would like to see, but this is one of those playoff matchups where you think, all right, the NBA, let's kind of make this one a big deal, which is how they market it. Because it would be two of the best young players, probably two of the most recognizable young players in the league as well.
And this year, possibly. When it's in the first round, they only gonna market it so much. But I think it'll be a game. It'll be one of those ones that would be people's matchup to pick as like one of their favorites to watch, because the series could go any way. I would expect Luka and Ja to both have big series, emergence of Desmond Bain. You would hope to see like Porzingis play at a high level. So it's a lot of factors that could make that a pretty good series.
No, definitely. Nikola Jokic he leads the league in shots made, but he's 21st in field goal attempts. When a player like that, especially a big man who has the ball so much, he shoots on the perimeter, he does, play in the post. Is that kind of a surprising stat to hear? From coming from, especially a player like Jokic, who's gonna have a high usage rate?
From him, not as much because he shoots a high percentage from the field. It is just kind of weird when you hear that, but so many guards take so many high amount of shots nowadays. I'm not really surprised. And at the end of the day, he's gonna take a lot of twos, so he's gonna make a lot of shots that way. So it's just a crazy stat to know that he's being efficient and effective with the shots that he decides to take, and it's not just all about just shooting any shot for him. It always got to make sense.
No, for surely. See, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said he's gonna cheer. Say he go cheer for LeBron whenever he passed him in all-time scoring list. Are you actually? I know, of course, people feel kind of way about Kareem, especially with some of the recent stuff he said about LeBron celebrating and whatnot. But that's just Kareem being an old guy. But are you surprised at that? Honestly, that he's gonna cheer for LeBron when it's time for him to pass him?
No, I'm not surprised. I don't think Kareem hates LeBron
right.
or is a hater. Well, he might be a hater a little bit, but I don't think he hates LeBron, and I think he would celebrate the accomplishment. I just think personally maybe he just doesn't like some of the things that LeBron does. He wouldn't do it that way. He didn't see Jordan do it that way. Whether that's what it is or is it. He didn't see Jordan do it that way, or Kobe or Magic and things like that. So people are gonna always compare you to the greats that came before you, especially when you're beginning to be put on their level or past those people's level. So I'm not surprised. Kareem isn't that kind of hater where he's gonna hate on LeBron. I think he's gonna appreciate what he does. I think he appreciates him as a player.
Right.
I just think he doesn't like some of the things he do, and just some. I mean, it's always been kind of a conversation out there amongst a lot of people of people thinking LeBron does certain things that the best player doesn't do, for whether it's for validation or whatever. That's always been the narrative out there. So clearly Kareem kind of feels that way a little bit, that LeBron's a little extra.
No, that's fair. Say, of course, Kareem. Like I said, I didn't take, I just see Kareem as an old guy saying that's not what I would do at my age, and that's just how it is. But the NBA is such, as people like to say, it's such a brotherhood. Why wouldn't Kareem cheer for LeBron to, break him, pass him and break his record for the all-time scoring list?
And more than likely, he'll be there.
Yeah, I feel like as long as LeBron is in the uniform, he'll be there. Or, if he's able to go, he'll be there.
All right.
So the NBA is getting real interesting as we get to the end of the season. We see some teams who've been at the top, stay at the top for the most part. Phoenix, Golden State, Utah, in the top three in the West. Chicago, Brooklyn, Miami, kind of been the top three in the East all year. Out of those 6 teams, real quick, who you think?
Memphis is the third in the West.
Memphis third in the West. No,
yeah,
my
Memphis
bad. My bad, Memphis.
Utah right
my
now.
bad, Memphis. Shout out Memphis getting that third seed. But out of those 3 teams, which one of those are you kind of thinking can stay there for the long run? I know you still been kind of waiting for Golden State to get that whole roster back. They just got Clay back a week ago. But who you think is kind of out of those 6 is there for the long run this year?
Well, for Phoenix for sure, because Phoenix is the one that I've said throughout the year. I think they got the best roster up and down. Coming off the championship last year, obviously, they're overall healthy. They aren't missing anyone too major. I mean, DeAndre Ayton missed the game against Indiana or whatever. But overall, the players they need are out there. They have a deep roster. Like, they can go inside, they can go outside. They get good bench play from Cam off the bench, and you got the backup point guard Cameron Payne off the bench. So good bench play. Obviously, you got good defense with Bridges and Ayton anchoring that. Phoenix has the best team up and down. We all respect Monty as a coach, so I definitely think you can bank on Phoenix kind of holding on to the number 1 seed in the West. The East The team I'm not surprised that's there in the East, even though I still have said for the longest, is I still think they need more things on the roster is Brooklyn, just because they got KD and he's the best player in the league right now.
All right.
So whenever he's out there, he puts him in position to win, and that's literally the main reason why Brooklyn has been there through trying to figure out who's going to be the center, who's going to be the other wing. With Joe Harris out, the Kyrie situation, the consistent has been KD until recently. Now that he's out for a couple weeks with the injury, so. I expect Brooklyn, they're going to be able to hold it down until KD comes back, especially they got so many road games. They're going to get a good dose of Kyrie in those games, so it's not just James out there by himself. So Brooklyn, I see them still maintaining their spot in the East, which they're back on top right now.
Do you think, of course, Miami is the team who everybody picks as, the playoff busters where they can beat one of these teams who, of course, everybody thinks is going to finish in front of them. Do you think that kind of still holds true in Miami where they can beat Brooklyn or Chicago or even Milwaukee in a playoff series and not just give them a run for their money?
I mean, they should be there. We should be talking about Miami as a contender. They were in the finals a few years ago. They have a champion in Kyle Lowry they added. They still have most of that roster that went to that final, so you, whether bubble or not, you experience playing for the championship.
Mm-hmm.
You have Jimmy Butler, who's one of the best wing players in the NBA. And when he's gone, he looks like one of the 10 best players in the NBA. So you would expect Miami to be there because they also can play different ways. They're good defensively, obviously, with Bam, who's, when he's healthy, Bam is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. They're going to have good leadership with Kyle and Jimmy. You got a career year this year from Tyler Hero, averaging 20 a game. I know Duncan Robinson isn't having the best season, but you still have his, he's always a candidate that you could be scared of to explode and go off for 6-7 threes in a night. The emergence of Max Strus this year, he's shooting the ball really well. Caleb Martin has shot the ball really well. They added PJ Tucker, champion last year. He's going to play hard, play some defense. So Miami can throw multiple lineups out there that at least defensively they can hang, which is just where you need to start. And then offensively, they still got the talent also, like I said, with Jimmy and Bam to start with that. So they should be in that conversation in the end to try to upset Brooklyn or the Bulls.
No, yeah, I definitely say Miami's just one of those teams because they do play hard and can play multiple styles that everybody's going to pick them as one of those teams that just to be not only a tough playoff matchup, but could possibly win that series as well. Golden State's kind of been struggling lately. Of course, Draymond Green has been out the lineup, and that always brings up talk of how important certain players are in this lineup. And with Draymond out, of course, about how important Draymond Green is. They have been struggling a lot recently, and I think a lot of that also has to do with them trying to get Clay back into the lineup and trying to get Clay going. But I know you also have your thoughts on that about how, everybody on that team is important, especially when it's those better players, Clay, Steph, Draymond. You need all of them together because, as you like to point out, when Steph was out and it was just Draymond, they were a lottery team at that point. Like, they were a really bad team. And it's just nobody on that team. Well, Steph is the best player. He's clearly the one you need to win the championship. But other than that, nobody on that, all the three best players on that team are all very important equally. And it's just, that's how, as it would have been a long season, teams are going to struggle as well. And do you think Golden State gets out of that anytime soon before All-Star break?
Well, you said they're going to get Draymond back?
No, just how they're struggling right now with Draymond being out.
They just going through them. That's what happened throughout the year. Like, it's hard for teams not to go. They're going to have those up and down games throughout the season. So overall, they'll be okay. They got a good win the other night. Steph hit the game-winning shot, his first buzzer beater of his career. But you're going to have those times where you struggle for a few games because and this was always been my problem with Golden State because, they've kind of overachieved throughout the year, but they still have some players that are still trying to figure it out and really learn how to win in the NBA. So it's not surprising that they hit a little bump in the road, especially if Steph shoots bad for a couple games. They can lose a few games, but still second place in the West. I think they're going to still finish in that area. They're going to fight Phoenix for the top seed overall. So they'll be okay. And especially as you're adding Clay and he gets healthier, his minutes start to go up. You're gonna see Clay get more comfortable on the court.
No, yeah, I can definitely see that. And like I said, it's just getting Clay back on the court, and that's the course. James Wiseman hasn't come back yet. I don't necessarily know the timetable on him. I thought he was going to be back when Clay was back because he was definitely in the G League working out and practicing when Clay was down there practicing and working out.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that questions about Wiseman because it's just the health. He's been hurt the whole time that he's been there. So I'm not really sure what it is with him. It's a knee injury. He's cleared to practice, but he just doesn't have a timetable to return to the game action or whatever. And then, you still got a couple more weeks till they reevaluate Draymond. But it's easy for everybody to pile on them right now and to just say, oh, Draymond is who they need, when it's obvious that they need Draymond on the team. Everything they've done this year has been with him included. So when you miss a player that plays 35 minutes a night for your team, 30 whatever minutes a night, 30 plus minutes a night, you take that out of your team, and now one person or two people got to fill up that role. It's obviously going to alter some things in your team or whatever. So they'll be all right. They just need a little time, get through the All-Star break, and like I say, as Clay gets healthier, they'll be fine. But they've always needed to add other pieces to be that championship contender that their record kind of shown. Clay was one of those pieces. I always thought Wiseman was the other, but we got to see what his health is like.
All right. And before we get out of here, Coach, we're getting close to All-Star break. Do you see any big splash trades happening anytime soon with any of the top teams, or probably just going to be the regular stuff to help for a playoff push?
The main thing is I still think the Hawks make a deal because I don't think it makes sense to just trade Cam Reddish for a player in Kevin Knox, who he played a few minutes the other night, got a pretty good dunk or whatever, but I think the Hawks still make a move to kind of set up the roster, improve the roster. They're on a 3-game winning streak right now. You could say Philly. You could say, because Daryl Morey says there's a good chance that Ben Simmons doesn't get traded. You could say maybe traded. You could say maybe he's just saying that so the moves would be unpredictable or whatever. But to this point, he's shown more interest in him playing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that Philly deal. But I would think the Hawks are going to be busy. I would think Boston, because Boston didn't expect to not make the playoffs this year or just to be a play-in team. So I would expect Boston to make a move. I think the Lakers will try to make a move. Everyone is in this, they can't do this, they can't do that. This is the NBA. This is what these people get paid for. They figure out how to make it happen. Because one moment is they have no assets to do nothing, and the next moment is, this is the new trade that's out. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Lakers that make a move. I don't think it necessarily involves Russell Westbrook, but
right.
I definitely think you can see the Lakers making a move. But those are the main teams I think everyone's looking at anyway. Hawks, Boston, Lakers, and Philly. Maybe potentially the Knicks. They could use a point guard there.
All right.
So maybe potentially the Knicks and a team at the top of the league. I've always said I thought the Bulls would make another move. Like I said, whether it's to get some shooting, to get some size, maybe it'd be more in the buyout market than the trade. But I think the Bulls are still doing something, and Brooklyn is obviously going to do something else too, because they've already talked about moving Paul Millsap. That's what they both, to find something better for him. Yeah, I guess he feels like he can contribute a little more. I don't know if he can. Brooklyn kind of needs him to contribute, and he's kind of not. But they've talked about trying to find him a new home, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them do something.
Yeah, but other than that, you got anything else?
Other than that, that's pretty much it for today. Just like you said, as always, appreciate the viewers. Appreciate the listeners. Shout out to Pat Benson and Jelani. We had them on here last week. Shout out to the Off the Ball Network. You can find us anywhere podcasts are available. Just search the Hoopers Pod. Make sure you go to the YouTube. Shout out to the YouTube. We always dropping dope content on there. Like, subscribe, comment on some stuff. You can catch us every Monday here on Nothing But Net, channel through the Dash Radio app at 3 o'clock every Monday. 3 p.m. Then, of course, every Wednesday, we go on at 12 for the through the Off the Ball Network's Facebook page, our YouTube page, and our Twitter page. And you can also, that's at 12 o'clock. And then also on Wednesday at 6 o'clock, catch us on the Hoopers Room on the Halftime app every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Don't know who's on the room this week. That'll come out one of these couple days. But go to YouTube, subscribe to the Hoopers page. Shout out to the YouTube.
John W.
It's Fresh X.
And this was the Hoopers Hour on Nothing But Net Radio, presented to you by Dash Radio.
Catch y'all next week.